It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. So glad you're joining us for this show that's all about research, academics, students, and all the good news and good things going on at the University of Louisville. Gives those of you who are alumni or supporters of U of L a chance to brag a little bit. So we'll give you a few tidbits and some things to brag about. Here's a little thing you can brag about. There was a piece of big news about U of L here in the last week or so. Dr. Craig McLean and his team at the U of L School of Medicine just received an $11.5 million COBRA grant from the National Institute of Health to do research on liver disease, specifically non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, alcoholic liver disease, environmental toxicology and liver disease, and liver cancer. So congratulations to them for getting that $11.5 million grant coming to the University of Louisville for more research. What are we going to talk about on the show today? Well, you young women and couples, listen up. A U of L researcher has been studying how much stress, smoking, or secondhand smoke affects fertility. She'll be here to talk about her findings. But first, Louisville's economy and our job picture here in the Louisville area. What does it look like right now? Are we doing better than the rest of the country? How might the proposed Humana merger with Aetna and the sale of GE's Appliance Park affect the economy here in Louisville? Jose Fernandez is an economics professor in U of L's College of Business. He's here to answer some of those questions, and he's a super genius when it comes to the economy, right, Jose?
Sure, we'll say that.
At least that's what we'll tell your boss, right?
That's right,
All right. Well, thanks for coming back on the show. We've had Jose on before talking about the Louisville economy and what's coming up and a little look behind at what the trends show in the Louisville economy. So give us the overall picture right now. Louisville's economy, good, bad, indifferent?
I would say overall we're doing better than average, but pretty close to it. We have just a slightly increase in inflation rates, about 1%. Unemployment levels are below the national average. We're seeing about 4.3%. It's still higher in areas of like construction and manufacturing, where there you could see unemployment levels somewhere between 7 to 8%. Incomes are going up. That's a good thing. Our middle class, while it got a little bit smaller, it's still larger than average compared to the rest of the United States. About 54% of households sit in the middle class in the city of Louisville, whereas across the nation, it's about 51%. 27% of our individuals are in the poverty bracket, and that unfortunately has grown over time, but so have the upper class. So there's a little bit of balancing out there, even though we have this little hollowing going on. Overall, housing prices are going up. That's the one area where we are seeing some, if you will, retraction. Sales are down relative to both the previous 2 years, and so we'd like to see that changing. However, rentals are going up, both in the demand for rentals and the prices along with them. You can get a one-bedroom about for $600 a month. We see 4 bedrooms going somewhere around, I think it's $1,000.
Well, I can tell you, whatever it is, it's a lot less than Boston because my daughter just moved to Boston. She's working for GE up in Boston, and I think she's paying like $2,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. So,
or San Francisco, for that matter.
Or San Francisco,
you have 6 figures there, and you can't even afford to live.
I know. Well, she was supposed to go to San Francisco initially, and it was even more expensive to get an apartment there. Well, let's go back and talk about the job growth in Louisville. Mm-hmm. Has it been steady, and is it still going up compared to the rest of the United States, or where is it?
It is steady. It's steady. It's been growing roughly about 3% every year. It's a slow growth, though, so it's not this miraculous growth that people are expecting. But overall, we're doing better than what the U.S. is doing. So the city and the MSA is better off.
And there's a lot of talk in the presidential race and other places about the job growth being in low-end, low-wage jobs instead of the good-paying, high-tech manufacturing jobs of the past. Where does Louisville stand on that? Are we seeing job growth in those sectors, healthcare, manufacturing, some of those sectors that pay real well, or are we seeing it in something that don't pay so well?
So we're split.
Okay.
We're split in that regard. We do have more jobs going into manufacturing, and after all, we have Ford here, we have Toyota here, we have people hitting the lines. But then we also see folks going to the health sector, and the health sector do have good paying jobs. So we're split between the two of them, and those are two of our largest sectors.
Okay. We're talking with Jose Fernandez, who's an economics professor at the University of Louisville. We're talking about the Louisville economy, job growth, and some other things going on in the Louisville area. The size of the middle class, you also mentioned that nationwide there's been, I think, what folks are calling a hollowing out of the middle class. You have the really rich and the really poor, and not much in between.
That's correct. Yeah.
But Louisville is doing a little bit better on retaining its middle class. Is that what I hear you saying?
Yes, we are. So it's been quite fascinating and scary at the same time. We see this middle class disappearing, and some of those folks in the middle class are being better off, meaning that they have household incomes above $150,000. But we also have the opposite occurring, where we see people moving more into poverty as well. Louisville overall has been able to maintain its middle class for longer than the rest of the nation.
Why is that?
It could be that our manufacturing jobs do pay fairly well. It could also be that primarily our service jobs are in the health sector, which on average are better off than, say, the hospitality sector.
And isn't there a large portion of the jobs in Louisville related to healthcare now? And is that a growing field in Louisville?
It is a growing field. I think we have about 15% of our jobs sitting in, no, I said that wrong. Yes, 15% of our jobs sitting in the health sector. So it makes up a fairly large part of our economy. Transportation, clearly, with UPS just in our backyard, makes up another large sector. And then manufacturing, specifically in our area, cars.
Are those jobs at the Ford plant still stable and, well, good paying, or are those wages, as they redo the contracts with the UAW, are those wages going down for the workers who are just now coming in and getting jobs at the Ford plants? In other words, is it a stable, good-paying job still at the Ford plants?
I do
in
think
Louisville?
it's a stable, good-paying job, particularly relative to, say, Toyota line workers. So I expect that to continue. Ford seems to be making increasing investments here in the city of Louisville. So I don't see those jobs going away, even though you may be hearing that we have some manufacturing heading towards Mexico.
And you sent me a sheet here, which I don't know where you got it off of, but it was the United States and Louisville Jefferson County Metropolitan statistics regarding the mean hourly wages of these different sectors, like architecture, community and social services, legal, etc. And it looks to me like Louisville has lower wages in general than the average across the United States, across just about every sector. Is that true?
That is true. Part of that is because the cost of living is lower here. Another part of that is that we have a lower level of education than the average city in the United States.
So what do you foresee? But look into your crystal ball and tell me what's going to happen in Louisville area in the next, I don't know, say year or so.
What I see in the next year is a flattening out of housing prices until sales start picking up again, even though we still see an increase in number of single home permits going up. I see job growth continuing to go up, but still at this kind of slow pace. I would expect if the GE and the merger goes through, to see more management jobs come down into this area. We may see some of the lower paying jobs disappear, so the middle folks. That's what I currently see. I wouldn't expect any big surprises unless we pass some type of trade policy that really hurts.
Well, let's hope not.
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about what impact you think the election might play on this, and some other things like GE and Humana and their mergers and sales. We're talking with Jose Fernandez, who's an economics professor at the University of Louisville and the College of Business. Let's talk about these mergers, specifically the Humana merger with Aetna that's proposed and that the feds are trying to block. What impact might that have on Louisville if it goes through, if that Humana merger goes through?
If that Humana merger goes through, I expect higher incomes for the workers at Aetna Humana, or whatever the name of the future company will be if they choose to change it. The reason is that they're going to have a lot more market power, and given that they're going to have a lot more market power, they'll be able to raise premiums. I know they're going to make the argument that they're not, but all the research has said the opposite, and it's probably the main reason why the FTC and the DOJ are trying to block the merger to begin with. The other area that I'm going to have some concern about, and it's not just with Aetna and Humana, is the health exchanges. The health exchanges are going to see fewer plans in them, and we're seeing that across the nation, which also is going to put upward pressure on premiums and going to make some folks who are buying in those exchanges worse off.
There's been a number of studies that have shown that what Kentucky has done with, I'll call it Obamacare, Kentucky Connect, whatever you want to call it, has been actually good for the healthcare sector, that they're making more money, paying workers better, et cetera. and it's helped, obviously, a number of Kentuckians get insurance. Is that going to continue, do you think? You just mentioned the health exchanges. Is that going to continue, or do you see some retraction in that as well?
It all depends on what the Bevin administration does with the Medicaid expansion. If they choose to retract the Medicaid expansion, then we're going to see significant losses in health insurance coverage. I don't see folks going into the exchange at that point. They would rather pay the penalty because, honestly, the penalty is just not stiff enough for folks in the low-income brackets, and so they'll go back to being uninsured.
All right. So the Humana-Aetna merger, probably good for Louisville. May lose a few jobs as you merge two companies together. You have duplicative services. Okay, so that may be good. What about Chinese company buying GE? What impact might that have on Appliance Park?
Well, they made a big investment, big sunk cost investment in Appliance Park. So I just don't see them turning around and saying, okay, let's go away. I see them wanting to continue to produce there. I see them wanting to, at the very least, if not keeping that park for themselves, selling that portion off to a different company. So I don't see the park going away. The job is, well, GE continues to negotiate with their workers, and they continue to hire workers, so they're pushing forward as business as usual, and they have an incentive to do so, because if they don't, the value of their company falls, which makes their sale price lower. They're not going to want that. So for the short run, I expect those jobs to be protected. Over the long run, we'll have to see.
So you're optimistic in the short term, bottom line, about the GE sale. Okay, and that could be good for Kentucky and Louisville in particular. All right, let's talk about a couple issues perhaps related to tourism, sports, recreation, those kinds of things. There are a number of new downtown hotels coming online. Does that tell you that our tourism industry is strong, or are we overbuilding in the hotel sector?
So this could actually be very good for the city of Louisville. According to the way conferences are planned out, you actually have different levels of cities, and we are currently in that third bracket. And the reason is that we don't have enough occupancy available for a big conference to come into play.
Downtown.
Mm-hmm. So until we have enough hotels, which are coming up, we're going to be closed out from those bigger conferences. Once that becomes available to us, then really our only restriction is going to be our airport. Can we get enough planes to come through there in order to bring all those folks in? And I think that's good progress that we have going on there. I do see it as a benefit, even for the programs that we currently have going on. But it'll get better once these larger conferences are going to come in. Those tourism dollars will bring more additional funds to the city, and it'll be better off for us.
So you're sold on the expansion of the convention center downtown?
I am sold on the expansion of the convention center, yes.
Okay, that'll bring more people, more business, more dollars to Louisville.
As long as the hotels show up with it, yes.
Okay. Soccer stadium. There's talk of building a soccer-only stadium for Louisville FC and the pro soccer team here. Good or bad idea?
So I think it's a bad idea. And I know that might
you realize you were talking out of sports station here, but go ahead.
Well, here's the reason why I think it's a bad idea. We currently have several facilities available as it stands right now. And you're only going to be playing X number of games within that facility. So tell me what you're going to be doing when you're not playing games, because we need revenues to be going through those facilities in order to justify the costs associated with it. Right now, using Slugger Field is great because we're giving a secondary use to Slugger Field. Once you move that away, you're telling me that you're going to open up another stadium, and how are they going to compete against the other available fields that exist in the city for these other revenues? I just don't see them making up the difference, and I don't see just concession stands alone during the games, home games that is, making up for the cost to justify it. All the economic research says that it doesn't actually bring a big multiplying effect. The only way that you can do that is if you bring enough tourism dollars in. That means individuals who are not from the Louisville MSA coming in just to watch soccer. And you can ask them themselves, a majority of their crowd is from the city of Louisville. So they're just moving dollars around from one service industry to another service industry. These are folks who would have gone out to a restaurant or would have gone out to see the bats or would have gone out to see the cards. That's all that's going on.
Okay, so just shuffling the dollars in your mind if we build a soccer-only stadium. With public dollars, I assume. If somebody wants to build, if the owner of the Louisville FC wants to build it on his own, I assume you're good with that.
Yeah, if they want to take the risk, let them do that. Or if they want some public support, why don't they float a bond instead? All right, so allow the public to decide whether or not they should have the new stadium.
And vote on it. Okay. Last question. I've kind of already asked you this. Go ahead and give me again what you predict for the next year or so in Louisville, Kentucky, as far as job growth and as far as wages in Louisville, Kentucky.
So I expect to see increasing growth in both the health sector and the educational sector. I expect to see manufacturing, that is in the automobile industry, to continue forward. UPS will continue to do well. We may see a flattening out in construction, but other than that, I see slow growth in the economy in a positive way without too many surprises.
Generally good news for the city of Louisville and surrounding counties. Mm-hmm. Very good. And for the workers in Louisville, right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Jose Fernandez from the College of Business, thanks a bunch. Appreciate it. Kira Taylor is a professor in the School of Public Health and Information Sciences, and more specifically in the Department of Epidemiology and Population Health. Yeah, that's a lot of words. She's doing research on fertility and how stress, smoking, and secondhand smoke can impact women who are trying to get pregnant. Welcome, Kira.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the one study that you've got done so far and what your findings were about stress and how it impacts the fertility of women.
Yes, well, what we did was we took 400 women, and these women filled out a daily diary and marked every day how stressed out they felt on a scale.
Did they mark every day?
Every day for about 8 months, sometimes over a year. Every single day, they marked their stress on a scale from 1 being least stressed to 4 the most stressed. And we also looked at whether they got pregnant during this time. And during menstrual cycles where they got pregnant, they were less likely to feel stressed, especially during the ovulatory window when a woman ovulates.
So how much did it come back? Seriously, among these 400 women, how many of them put down just about every day that they were stressed out from work?
We didn't actually ask the reason why they were stressed.
Oh, well,
so that would be an
out
interesting follow-up study, because maybe they were stressed because they were trying to get pregnant and couldn't, or it could have been a completely unrelated reason, such as work. Yeah.
And so the bottom line on this is that stressed out women had a tough time getting pregnant. Is that the bottom line?
That's right. And what was interesting is that the stress only mattered during the ovulatory window, not in any other time during the menstrual cycle. So not during the implantation window when the fertilized egg would be implanting in the uterus, and not during menstruation either. So it was only during that window of ovulation when the follicle is released.
And that's how many days are we talking
about?
That's
about 4 to 5 days.
See, I'm a guy. I wouldn't know those things. So 4 to 5 day, that 4 to 5 day
right.
window. Are there a lot of women from your study and from your research that get to that 4 to 5 day window and, like you said, get really stressed out of, we gotta get pregnant during this 5 day window, or we gotta wait another month?
Right, it's possible, certainly, especially if they were actively trying to get pregnant. With about a third of the women were actively trying to get pregnant. The other 2/3 of the women were not trying to get pregnant, but they could have gotten pregnant. They were at risk for pregnancy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a little confusing because it's only during that window that we're talking about during the course
right.
of this study, correct? And what percentage of the women that you talked to had what you would consider high-stress jobs? Or did you even know what the jobs were of the women?
We didn't know the reason or the stress. We didn't know whether they had high-stress jobs. All we know is that women marked 1, 2, 3, or 4. And this comparison, less stressed to more stressed, worked both within a woman, like in cycles where the same woman was less stressed, she was more likely to get pregnant than a cycle where she was more stressed. And also comparing across women, so women that felt more stressed than other women were also less likely to get pregnant.
Was age a factor in any way?
Age was definitely a factor, and we accounted for that. So we controlled for age, meaning we set a level playing field. So,
okay.
Yeah.
How'd you do that? I'm sure there's some study metrics you can
there's
they
statistical
get really
methodology.
Involved. Okay.
Basically, what you do is you compare women only who are in the same age groups when you're doing this kind of comparison.
Okay, we're talking with Kira Taylor, who's from the School of Public Health and Information Sciences, and we're talking about her work on fertility and how tough it is for women who have different factors to get pregnant, basically. You also looked at, or are going to look at, I guess, women who smoke, right? And that's a study that's coming up, correct?
Right. So we're looking at the effect of smoking and also just secondhand smoke on fertility, specifically in women who are seeking infertility treatment.
So if they're going to a fertility clinic,
Right.
So that's a pretty narrow field of women that you're going to be studying then, right?
It is, although about 10 to 15% of couples nowadays have trouble getting pregnant, and a large percentage of them do seek treatment in infertility clinics. So the population is growing, and you probably know several people. I know many people who have sought infertility treatment.
It's 10 to 15% of couples that have trouble getting pregnant? Is
Yes.
that big?
It is that big, and it might be increasing also because people are waiting until older ages to try to conceive now.
Have there been some studies already about women who smoke and breathe secondhand smoke? Have there been some studies already that you're just trying to validate, or is this something new?
So we are adding a new aspect. There have been studies that show that smoking definitely affects fertility. It causes the ovaries to age faster, basically. Eggs of a 35-year-old smoker might be the same as the egg of a 40-year-old non-smoker.
Okay. So age is really a factor in that case.
Age is definitely a factor, and again, we will control for that. But the new aspect of this study is that we're looking at a particular gene that metabolizes toxins found in cigarette smoke. So some women carry a form of the gene that helps them metabolize that faster, and other women carry a less functional form of the gene where they metabolize it slower. So we're looking to see whether the effect of smoking differs depending on what gene you carry.
So some of it's hereditary then, correct?
Absolutely.
Or possibly.
Possibly. So that's what we're trying to look into, and this will be the first time that anyone has looked at this.
Okay. And that gene is what? What's
It's called NAT2.
Okay. And what is that?
It's an acetyltransferase, and basically it helps metabolize or break down some substances found in cigarette smoke, and so that you can excrete them.
Okay, so that's a good gene. You want that
It
gene.
is a good gene, and because there's different forms of the gene, some people have I guess you would say, the better form, the faster form, that helps them metabolize it more quickly and get it out of your body.
And there have been a lot of studies recently, I think, on secondhand smoke. So I'm assuming I'm guessing that secondhand smoke is less harmful than smoking cigarettes yourself, right?
You could assume that, although the actual chemical substances in secondhand smoke are slightly different than in smokers when you are inhaling it. So because of those differences, we might see differences that you might not expect, not just a smaller effect, but also maybe a different effect.
And you got money from what agency to do this?
The NIH, specifically the National Institutes of Child Health and Development.
Okay, and what is your field? What do you specialize in? Is this the very narrow field that you work in, or is there something else that's a little bit broader that you study as well?
I'm focusing right now on what we call reproductive epidemiology. So what factors affect reproduction and fertility, and things like miscarriage, spontaneous abortion, the ability to conceive, these kinds of questions. And I also do genetic epidemiology, so I look at the effect of genes on a variety of different characteristics.
Well, what about some of those things then? Some of these other factors, some of these other things that happen to women when they become pregnant. Is there some factors that smoking and stress? Do those things have anything to do with when they have a miscarriage or something like that?
Yes, smoking definitely increases risk of miscarriage, and also smoking really causes low birth weight. That's the biggest problem with smoking during pregnancy.
And low birth weight, we're talking how much lower than the average baby size? What are we talking about here? A pound, a few ounces?
Yeah, I think it's around 500 grams.
So it's not that dramatic, is it?
But it has a lot of effects later on in life.
Okay.
So, for example, low birth weight is associated with cardiovascular disease 60, 70 years later.
Okay. We're talking again with Kira Taylor, who's from the School of Public Health and Information Sciences at the University of Louisville. And you just heard her say what she's studying and looking into as far as research. Do guys get impacted by any of this?
Yes. Actually, smoking causes low sperm count also.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I don't smoke, so I don't have to worry about that. So what do you tell guys who are smokers? What do you tell them?
Right. Well, physicians who work in fertility clinics, they will certainly counsel both partners to stop smoking. And in some states and countries, you actually have to stop for at least 3 months before you're even eligible for an infertility treatment.
Really?
Yes.
And we do have that in the United States, or?
We have it in some places in the U.S., yeah. So certain fertility clinics will have that rule that they want you to quit smoking at least 3 months before you try.
Wow. So guys, if you're a smoker and you're trying to get pregnant with your wife, quit smoking for at least 3 months. Is that
yes?
Is that what you're telling them? Well, quit smoking, yes. Period. But
right.
Obviously.
Right. And other factors that it can affect both men and women are obesity and possibly even drinking alcohol. And caffeine has been looked at but never really been found to be strongly associated with fertility.
And have you done any studies on the caffeine? And and what have you found?
no effect.
No effect at all? Well, that's good news for coffee
or
drinkers and Coke
possibly
drinkers.
a small effect, but generally you don't really have to worry about it as long as you're drinking a moderate amount of caffeine.
Moderate amount being a couple cups a day?
Yeah, up to 2 cups a day is fine.
And getting back on the guys, is there anything else that can affect sperm count in guys that you found?
Yes, there are certain occupational exposures. So men that work in factories that have, say, a certain type of air pollution that they might be working with a lot have low sperm count.
And so those types of environments for men, could it also have an impact beyond just the sperm count? Could it impact what is in that sperm as far as genes and those kinds of things that are delivered to the baby, or not?
Oh, I see. So as long as you get pregnant, so yeah, men don't contribute a lot to the baby other than DNA. Women, the egg really carries both the DNA and also a lot of nutrients because the egg is much bigger than the sperm.
So really, the answer is no. Then.
Right.
Nothing beyond that. Is there anything else that sexually active women should know about environmental hazards or anything else as they're going through life and trying to get pregnant?
That's a good question. So pesticides, for example, have been shown to be associated with decreased probability of conception in both men and women. So you should try to limit your exposure to basically toxic chemicals that you're breathing in.
But the stress thing is really the one that's really a daily factor.
Right.
That's really interesting.
Stress, smoking, alcohol, obesity. Those are the big ones that are modifiable. Of course, you can't change your genes, but you can change a lot of other things.
So what's your advice to women? What do you tell them when women come into your study or your clinic or whatever, and they say, well, I feel really stressed out, so I drank a bottle of wine last night. What do you tell them?
Right. Well, there are different ways to reduce stress. For example, exercising on a regular basis and meditation, talking to a mental health professional, enrolling in a stress management program. These are all things that women can do to help reduce their stress when they're trying to conceive.
All right. Here's a chance to make a pitch. You've got this study that's coming up on smoking and infertility.
Yes, it's called the Lucy Study, and it's specifically for patients who are seeking infertility treatment at the University of Louisville Fertility Clinic, which is now located on Dutchman's Lane.
And so you're looking for folks to join in.
We're looking for people to enroll, right? Oh. And in the next 3 years or so, if you are a patient there, then you will be invited to participate in the study.
Okay, so how can a guy or a woman get a hold of you and say, hey, we'd be interested in that?
They can contact the University of Louisville Fertility Clinic and say that they're interested in participating, or they can contact me directly. I have a webpage on the UofL website on the School of Public Health. They can look me up and send me an email.
And again, the name is Kira Taylor, Kira Taylor, just like it sounds. All right. Well, thanks for being on. I appreciate it. Interesting stuff. And
Thank you very much.
We'll check back with you once you get the study underway and concluded on the effects of smoking on fertility.
Great.
That'd
Thank you very much.
All right. Since we're talking about public health, our piece of UofL trivia for today involves public health. Did you know that since 2012, the University of Louisville Division of Infectious Disease has administered age-appropriate vaccines to adult refugees? As of the end of June, close to 7,000 refugees have been immunized with more than 23,000 doses of vaccine. So folks at UofL doing a great job for the refugees who are in our city. So you can always hear UofL Today with Mark Hebert on Monday and Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock on 93.9 The Ville. We also tape these programs. We videotape them and also show them on Metro TV and KET3 during the week. You can catch up with me every Monday morning on Great Day Live with Rachel Platt and Terry Miners on WHAS 11. I always have a story about the students or some research or something going on at the University of Louisville. Some good stuff, some good news about the University of Louisville. So thank you all for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert, and go Cards.